We do think coaching, in the beginning, everyone thinks it's an expense because you haven't had one, right?
Yeah, agreed. I would say it's probably one of the best investments I've made in the business. You know what I mean? I've quite a strong sporting background.
Welcome to Tip Top Grow Up Your Business with Metronomics. Join me, Shannon Susko, and Metronomics certified coach, Jed Roberts.
We'll be talking to business thought leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business team coaches who have all taken the journey to grow up their businesses to their tip top.
We'll be sharing strategies, systems, stories, and how you can grow your company up at the speed you want.
If you're searching for your path to the tip top and feel your time is running out, then this podcast is for you.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Tip Top Grow Your Business with Metronomics. We're going to deep dive into a great story of a leader, a CEO, and really getting into Liam's background. Welcome, Liam Turley, CEO of Trinzo, is our guest today. And you know what, Liam, with our conversation today, I'm going to let you introduce a little bit more about yourself as well as Trinzo. So first off, tell me how you became the CEO of Trinzo.
Yeah, thanks very much, Shannon. Delighted to be on the program. I fell into being the CEO of Trinzo by being made redundant from a previous company. So in around 2015, I was working with a company called Metronomic and was made redundant and saw a little gap in the market and decided to set Trinzo up just over 8 years ago now.
Yeah, wow, 8 years. Okay, so that's a great journey in itself. Tell us a little bit more about Trinzo, why you set it up, and a little bit more of that journey.
Yeah, I suppose, like everything, you go on an adventure in life or you don't. So I'm kind of the adventurous type. So I did see a little bit of a gap in the market in terms of providing quality and regulatory consulting expertise back into the industry. The industry that we work in is the med tech and the pharmaceutical industry. So into those two areas.
So, and you've been in the med tech industry for, I'm going to say decades.
30
I
years,
don't know.
30 years, unfortunately. Yes, I have.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, you got to a point, you're like, wow, there's an opportunity to make an impact back into that with your expertise and create a team to do so.
Yeah, this was from the very beginning. We had a really, really good coach, Paul O'Kelly, who's helped us on that journey. And I suppose from the start, we embraced the metronomics approach. We've changed over time, but I suppose we are very much a purpose-driven company. That's what I would say. And what we're about really is about making lives better. That's our kind of vision. And that can be extrapolated to the industry that we work in, to the employees that work within Trinzo.
Oh, I love that. So, external, internal, making lives better. Purpose-driven, at this point in your journey, really makes a difference. Not that it didn't make it earlier, but when you step out and you build that team, what drew you right away to go get a coach? You work with Paul O'Kelly, what I consider, one of the greatest coaches out there in our world. And what made you think, oh, I got to go get a coach?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that I had never done it before. So I'd always worked in the larger multinational companies and, grew up in a functional vertical where quality and regulatory was my background. I didn't have a business degree. I had a science degree, did a master's in science then, and then did another course on pharmacy. So all my education background wasn't really businessy. And I didn't know how to scale this thing, but I did know that I needed somebody to help me scale it. So that was kind of the draw to it.
Well, I love that. And you said you went right from the beginning, right? Right from the beginning, I'm going to go get a coach. How did you find Paul O'Kelly?
So I think my business partner at the time, who since left the business, found Paul. And it was a really funny story because he said to me, we've got to hire this guy. And I said, why do we have to hire him? And he goes, because he's so expensive, he must be brilliant. So that's the background to it. So that was the business decision around bringing him in. But Paul has been on the journey from the very start, Paul and Milan.
Amazing. And then, we talk about, I love because he's so expensive, but it was probably the best return on investment you've made, in that journey you're on. Because we do think coaching, although, in the beginning, everyone thinks it's an expense because you haven't had one, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the best investments I've made in the business. You know what I mean? I've quite a strong sporting background, and in sport you need a coach. They don't always play with you on the team, but they guide you, they nurture you. They're a true partner within the growth of the business, and Paul, it's certainly all that.
Now, thinking about, I think 8 years, right? 8 years in for Trinzo. What has been some of the biggest challenges you've faced as a leader that sort of stick out over that time? Because there's usually like these points that we get to a certain point, we're like, got to get through this, and then we get to another point, got to get through this. What's the biggest challenge you've faced as a leader in growing this business?
Yeah, I'd say at the start, myself and a business partner set it up, and we started on the basis of one single project, which was quite a big project. And I suppose when that project came to an end, we both had different views on how to scale and grow a business. So, that was quite difficult, you know what I mean? Because, we come on a journey for maybe a year and a half, both of different styles. They're different, not one better than the other. So I ended up buying out my business partner at the time, which was difficult because it meant where there was two of us, there was just one of us, and then that's when I brought in Paul. You know what I mean, at the start.
How did you? This happens often. We know this. I've had it happen to me along the way in my journey as well. We get so far into the journey with other, my first business, it was 4 founders, and we got so far into the journey, and then, I stayed and others went on their way to carry on the journey. Not here nor there, but what were some of those things? Because some of our listeners for sure have either are living this, have experienced this, and would probably really value your feedback on, how did you recognize it, number one, and then, how did you get to the other side of it? How long did it take? What things did you have to go through?
Yeah, I think we're still going through the journey, and I don't think we're out through the other side yet. But I think like naively, I kind of went into this thinking, my team that I start with is going to be the same team, and we're going to be very tight knit, and we're going to get it right to the end of the journey. But what you find is as you grow, skill sets are different. So the team that you start your journey with is most certainly not going to be the team that you finish with. And that's not for any other reason, that it's just different skill sets are required as you grow. Different partnerships are required. I brought in a very good gentleman by the name of Peter Walsh as an investor into the business, and he had tremendous contacts. And so those decisions on strengthening the team as you go along, and then also getting the right partners to kind of work with you are really, really important. And that's probably something that most entrepreneurs or startups will have to kind of go through, those 2 big milestones.
Yeah, love that. Today, when we think about your business from where you started to where you are, what kind of growth have you experienced? Because we know that when we grow, yes, it's not always who you started with, is how you're, who's with you now. But what kind of growth have you experienced that you can share with us?
Yeah, look at I suppose we'd a quick start followed by a slowdown, because that was one big project. So it was at the end of that project, then there was a decision whether it's a project or it's a business. So I took the decision to make it, or try and start it as a business. I'd say on average, we've been growing probably 30% year on year.
Right.
So
huge,
last year,
huge.
yeah.
Congratulations. That's huge.
And commiserations, because that comes with its challenges as well in terms of, Yeah, it makes it tough. Over the last 4 years, though, we've invested heavily in new leadership.
Yes.
We hit a couple of milestones in terms of business growth this year. That was very exciting. We hit our first $1 million month ever, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, which was well celebrated. But
Yes.
it can be challenging. COVID was quite a challenge for us
Yeah.
because you can imagine we weren't able to go out to visit clients, so we had to do everything remotely. Paul did help us pivot using things like Mural, Teams.
Yeah.
We were still able to kind of deliver and actually grow just post-COVID again,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. But like there's some of the challenges.
Well, congratulations on that major milestone. But as well, everyone's looking for that sustainable growth, that consistent growth. 30% is a huge number. We all know this. Most people would, any leader listening in is like 30% year over year is incredible growth. You talked a little bit about, over the last 4 years, thinking about your leadership team and thinking about that. What are some of the things that you've run into, like the big themes when you're scaling an organization at that level? For sure, people. What are some things you've had to do to get the right people, right? And I'm going to say in the right seats, taking it right from Jim Collins.
Yeah. I think we use a system called Predictive Index to kind of profile hires, and then I suppose we've strengthened our interview process. And at the start, you don't really know what you don't know, and you don't know what roles are going to be required as you grow. But I suppose we now have a good structure, good leadership team. We had to invest heavily in sales. Probably about 2 years ago, we brought in Salesforce.com to kind of help us. So we've got a good system around sales, because our type of business, what's really important is that we'd say what we call sticky business with clients, that you're not just generating project after project, but you're actually that trusted partner, or as somebody said to me once, the truthful trusted partner, that we get to work with good clients and, do a really good job for them and give value back to clients. So they'd be kind of some of the key things.
Yeah, I love that. So when you Predictive Index, we think of that, that's within your hiring system. I love how you said, maybe you don't know what you don't know. And over time, I would imagine, as you continue to grow, that system had to grow with you. The people had to grow with you. The other one that it's funny, not a lot of people talk about that you've just, brought forward is the sales system. Right. A lot of people go, we're going to grow, but think about other things. What did you have to do in order to ensure the sales system was growing with your organization?
Yeah, because at the start, I did most of the sales. I go back, we started our sales process on a whiteboard. That's where it started. That grew into a small system called One Page CRM, which was a small customer relationships management system, graduated then to Salesforce as a system to kind of help us as well. But, we use Metronomics a lot in terms of our daily huddle on sales. We have our teams call around it at 12 o'clock every single day. So we've a very good rigor or discipline around our kind of sales process. But we also had to invest in other coaches. So we invested in a coach that actually was an expert in selling consultancy. We invested in a coach that was an expert in how to manage sales and the sales process. And then we hired professional salespeople.
Right. And that's the journey you go on. I hone in on that because even for me as a coach, working with many organizations, it's, as we're growing one up, you jumped in, learned the sales process, and gritty got in there and you were driving it, right? And you mapped it out, and then you look for, okay, what system can help, right? We look for the next system, we find one, we grow it a little further, get a few more people involved, make some good choices, some maybe not so good choices, having been there. I'm speaking of my own experience. And then, you know what? It's funny that you end up at a Salesforce or a HubSpot or something like that. And then you're looking for those professional salespeople. And a lot of people think you go 0 to 100, but it's gritty through that cycle of trying to keep the growth alive. And you're wearing two hats, right? You're wearing that sales leader hat and you're wearing that CEO hat. Can you go back and, it's probably interesting perspective, having worked with Paul from the beginning, but thinking about, what are those key habits, team habits that you're leveraging from the Metronomics system in your growth journey?
Yeah, I'd say it's the rigor that it brings. So we are probably one of the best companies that, I'm going to say that, of course, in terms of execution. So, we do have a strategic mindset, but we have our morning huddles. We get in our tasks that are critical for the day. We provide full visibility into the financials for the entire team, so they get to see the score all the time. And then, so like we've already got our 2025 metrics in Metronome for next year. So we are an execution machine, but that takes a lot of managing, and it takes a lot of rigor, and it takes a certain type of mindset to work in Trinzo that it doesn't suit everybody, but it's, it works for us.
When you started out, I in my own journey, my first company, Metronomics, didn't exist. We created it in my first company. My second company, we started with Metronomics, right? And we built it up, and this is just how we did things, right? And people either were attracted to it or not. When you think about the team habits that you started with from the very beginning to the team habits now, how many people on your team today?
So we have about 32 full-time and probably another 40 on contract.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So when you think about where you started to where you are today, what are those key team habits that you do every day that, drives, I love your execution machine. It was such a good, that's a good description.
Like we have our morning check-in, like at the start, it was one big check-in for everybody. And then we to break that out into functional check-ins. So like we'll do a functional check-in at say 10 to 9 every morning. So the various functions, be it finance, be it HR, all have their own little mini huddles. And then as a leadership team, then we get together at 9 o'clock and then I suppose clarify what the priorities are for the day, give key updates, making sure that there's no blockers in the system for the day. We also have a sales meeting at 12 o'clock every day because our sales team are generally based in the US. And again, it's the rigor of going through what are the actions, what are the activities, what are we nudging forward. We pay attention to the score, but we don't obsess about it.
Right. You know the score. Yeah. You know the score. And, like you have a sports background. It's like we don't play a game without a scoreboard. Even in, amateur sports, there's a scoreboard. We are looking at the scoreboard. We're playing the game. We're trying to impact that score throughout the game, right? And that's what we're looking. That's what Metronome, the software side of things, is there to set up the playing field and the score so we can see it. We know it.
And then what we do obsess about though is the impact or the inputs into the scoring. So it's kind of if you take your sporting analogy, we know that if we run faster, are stronger, have a good game plan, they all lead to a better score. So it's kind of the thing for us is really those priorities that we focus on. And we've recently started focusing on the differentiators in a large way this year and last year. That takes a bit of learning and why are they different? And they're more your long-term 3-hag bets as opposed to your priorities. So I think they're really helpful.
And I love that, that evolution is there for the growth that you've experienced, because those differentiating activities, as we know, make up our strategy. They're interdependent. They're the ones. And I know for me as a CEO, when we, as a team, mapped out the big moves we're going to make across the swim lanes, it just two things. And I'd love to hear what you have experienced going through that process with your team, because it's a very different way of thinking. We weren't taught this in business school. We were always said, yeah, we need to know the strategy, execute it, that kind of thing, but it's sharing it. As a CEO, going through this process with your team, what are some of the things that you were like, oh, so good? What were the really good things out of the process, and what were some of the things that you were going, oh, I wish we could do that differently or again or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I think as you grow and your team changes. So like you're going to change your team, even if it's one person, twice a year, because you're adding new people in. And there's an education level then where that, if you've individuals who are very experienced, they have better knowledge on what all these systems mean and how they work. So it takes time to kind of build up that knowledge, that expertise. I'd like to be able to do that quicker, but you can only do it when it's right for you. And I think definitely the differentiators are a big step up for us for the last year, 2 years, where we're going after things that make us unique in an area that's quite hard to differentiate. So it's a difficult industry to differentiate, and we were beating ourselves up about that for a long time until somebody said to us, look, it's really hard to differentiate in a service-based business because it's just difficult. There's a lot of companies there that are doing things a little bit differently. We'd like to think that we do have real differentiators, which we're going after.
Yes. And I love what you just said. Every company out there, different than sports, right? Sports, we're competing to be the best. In business, we're competing to be unique. I love that you use that word because we're trying to find that space that who we serve in that space, buys from us at a profit, right? I mean, that's who we're serving, our core customer, and being able to, get the differentiators out there and sharing it with the team as our team continues to evolve as we grow the company. It gives us that connection between the story of that, that now to the, near term to the long term. It really made a difference for me as a CEO. For thinking about this and where you are in your journey and what you've lived through, what would be some advice for any CEOs, whether they're starting out or, they've been a CEO in an organization for quite some time? What would you recommend steps for them to take in order to learn about, Metronomics, the growth operating system, and really about themselves and the business?
Yeah, like I would say to kind of embrace it, learn as much as you can from it, because I think it's really important that you know how the tools work. I would definitely say that hire a coach pretty early. I think other things that we found early was culture is really, really important. So we put a lot of effort into culture, and we've reinvented our culture a number of times and trying to simplify it and, what makes us different. And we, at one stage, we'd weekly culture workshops where we'd sit down and talk about it. So look, we still obsess about it. We've got that down to where we're happy with 3 kind of key H's. It's not dissimilar to what you've gone through as well. And it's around being humble, it's around being hungry, and also high impact. So they're 3 things that we obsess about, and people who come into the organization do have to demonstrate those. So, you've probably read the book, the Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctionals. So we've gone through all of that and making sure that the team, we've got the right players and that the players are in the right positions. So Jim Collins talks about having the right people on the right seats in the bus. That is just so important. Yeah, I'd also say, look, don't beat yourself up as a CEO either in terms of trying to get the perfect team. It's more about experimenting, moving people in different positions, trial and error. I don't believe it's possible to kind of go with one strategy at the beginning and stick to it. I think it's an iterative, experiential or experimental process that takes a lot of patience. So it does. So you'll be changing a lot.
Yeah, I love that. Iteration, experiential experience, because it is, right? Especially whether we're growing it from, where we are today and beyond, or if we're just starting out all the way through. It's just keeping our eyes wide open and making sure we're taking a step back to look at it, because we can be so deep into it. That's why I really think it's, insightful around, I can say it because I was coached, early on going to get a coach. I did the exact same thing because I didn't know what I didn't know, and just realizing that early on. What do you see when we look forward into Trinzo's future? What are you envisioning for the future for Trinzo? What's your next big goal, big challenge?
So we're actually moving to brand new offices in February, so that's a big deal for us as well. We've outgrown kind of the space that we're in. We'll stay Galway based. I suppose like every company will be impacted by AI, so that's an area, one of the differentiators that we're going to go after, particularly in our industry. It's trying to embrace that, learn from it, and see where it can kind of support our clients in a better way. When you start off initially, I think you tend to be more inward focused rather than client focused. We're growing up and maturing and making sure that in the decisions and team and solutions and services we put out there, that we keep the client front and center. I think that's really, really important. And that seems to kind of resonate with clients as well.
Yes. Yeah, love that. And that is, that is the maturity of, as we grow through the stages of growth, taking a different view of where we are. I love that you have taken a step back and you're thinking about that. And not only then, but, more so now with the growth that you've had and being able, look up and look around and have the time to do so. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd known early in your journey in Trinzo that, you would share now?
Yeah, I'd say if someone set me down and explained how difficult it is to grow and lead a company, I would probably be having second thoughts on it. I think you need really genuine resilience. You need to be able to take the knocks. Just like in sports, winning is all it's difficult. It's much easier when you look backwards and you say, "Wow, that was super and not that hard." But you're going to lose more times than you win. And I think it's just making sure that you're resilient and that you don't doubt yourself, even though you're going to take knocks. There's years when we lost money, there's years when we made money. I think it's really important that you keep that core belief in what you're doing, because that's what gets you through. I think desire and belief are probably the two biggest motivators in my mind in terms of a skill set that a CEO needs.
Yeah, that's perfect. Desire and belief, because we started this conversation around core purpose, right? And you absolutely have to believe in your core purpose to get gritty, to build the team to deliver that impact, to look forward and to want to grow it. Amazing to learn about your journey. I know we're going to see one other in person again, which is fabulous, in Dublin, in Ireland, at Metronomics Workshop. You've been to Metronomics Workshop. You've been after many years of working with a coach. What's a few takeaways you can share with the listeners about, going to a Metronomics full day workshop, being with others who are interested or actually implementing and being within the community?
Yeah, I think it's great to bounce ideas off. So I think it's great to network, get to meet other like-minded people that are struggling in their journeys. Because as you say, it is a gritty process. You use the term "gut it out," so you're going to gut it out a number of times. And I think if you go with a mindset that you gut it out once and you're going to get it perfect, that's going to end up being very frustrating. So I think it's always brilliant to talk with other like-minded people who've been on similar journeys, share ideas, build connections, because business is about partnering at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You partner with your employees, you partner with your customers. and you have various other partners. So I think it's quite a safe environment, I think, as well, where people can openly share their ideas and share what's not working as well as what is working.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you were there, it's still the same year. It seems like a year ago,
I
but
know.
you're there. You're there in January 2024 when we did the first one in Europe. We did it in Dublin. What, having lived this, what was your like biggest takeaway from it?
Yeah, I think what's even more important, because like I'm so used to the systems now, is for CEOs to bring their teams along. So I think it's nearly more important that you educate your team, and they get to know why this has been developed, the way it's been developed, why it works. So at the event coming up, there'll be at least 3 or 4 of my team there. And I think that's going to be really important, because they need to be educated on how the tools work and embrace it as well. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I love that you say that. It's, what we have found, CEOs come first, and then they get there and they're like, oh, I wish I brought my team, right? And the biggest reason is that, and I know this, as a CEO, I was out there learning a ton. I was going to a workshop here, there, and I'd come back and my team would go, oh, flavor of the month, here's the next thing. And it would just like sort of glaze over and we wouldn't get the impact. And it's been really great putting on and really making an impact of CEOs plus their leadership teams. It takes the weight off of your shoulders for having to go back to train more, but it also builds their perspective and they get to apply their experience, because, your leadership team, as you've been growing it, and others as they've been growing it, definitely have experiences to bring to the table, to the system, right? We're learning the pieces of the system. Well, I look forward to that. Is there 2 more questions? Is there a particular book or thought leader that you would recommend to others who've had a great impact on your journey, on your leadership journey?
Yeah, so like I do like Jim Collins and his books. Do you know what I mean? I think he's a really unique style of thinking. I really enjoyed some of the other speakers at your event in Whistler earlier this year as well. So I think there was some very good ideas there. Dan Sullivan and the other younger gentleman who 10x is easier than 2x.
Yes, Ben Hardy.
Ben
Ben
Hardy. He did a fantastic
Write down what
job.
you want, right?
Yeah, and we're kind of doing that and applying some of
Yes.
those. You take little
Great.
nuggets, I think, from each author.
Yes. Yes.
Most of my mentors have been sports people who I've learned through grittiness in sport, and applying some of the learnings in terms of discipline, rigor, things like that are really, really important to me as well. So I should read more. I don't. But I definitely I speed read, and I'll take nuggets from various different authors.
Yeah, I love it. And on our journey, it's about what we need. We hear what we need at that time. And having read many of the Jim Collins books many times, and I'll say out loud, a lot of them I'm in double digits to how many times I've read them. I read them a lot on my own journey, and then I'm rereading them with my clients' journeys. You're listening for what you need at that time, and then you go back and you get the next nugget and you get the next nugget. It's sort of like, laying it out there for the journey. Where can people find out more about Trinzo? What's the best place to learn more about Trinzo and yourself?
I'd say we recently launched our new website as well, so trinzo.com, Trinzo.com. So they'll get a lot of information there. Look, we're working to try and improve patient welfare and health by supporting big companies deliver fantastic products to their customers. So we work with everything from knee implants to stents to ventilation products. So a lot of, my personal story is around my dad, who got 2 brand new knees, 2 implants in his knees. Changed his life dramatically. He's 88 today, and not today, but he's 88, and golfs once a week, and is very, very mobile. He wouldn't be in that position if he didn't have great products that these companies provide. So they're
Well, fantastic. I love your purpose. Incredible that you shared your journey with us. Thank you for that. I really appreciate personally your support and you being here to share that story. Many who are listening in can relate to quite a few different themes that came forward. And I just want to say thank you. And I really look forward to seeing you and your team in February in Dublin.
Super. And I likewise look forward to it as well. And look, thanks for all your thinking and great ideas, because I think I really enjoy the system and I really enjoy the way it's ever evolving. And it's kind of that path that gives me confidence that someone has gone through a similar journey, has worked out some, not all of the bumps in the road for you already. So look, thank you for what you do.
You're very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Tip Top Grow Your Business with Metronomics. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, leave a review. Until next time, let's keep building great companies together.
Tip Top is brought to you by Metronomics.
To find out more about Metronomics and how this proven 20-year-old system will save you time and money as you grow up your business,
visit metronomics.com. That is metronomics.com.
Share your thoughts on today's episode in the comments and suggest topics you'd love us to explore the next time.
Also search for Metronomics in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else that great podcasts are found.